Hi, it's David from Life with Parkinson. Wow, it is nice to be back on YouTube. It's very good to be back on YouTube. Hello, everyone. It's David from Life with Parkinson's. I'm just trying to get everything set up. There were some technical difficulties this morning getting organized, but I'm happy to see you guys here. Very, very happy. YouTube's announced a bunch of good features that will help bring live streams back. Sorry, I'm just going to turn this camera a little bit more. We'll bring live streams back to YouTube. And I'm very happy about that. Almost there. There we go. That's the direction I wanted. Yeah, but we're here today to talk about Parkinson's disease and food, my favorite subject in the world. Now, can everybody hear me okay? Just want to make sure oh yeah, you probably would have said something by now. We're probably all good. So there's a few things going on. One is I've been talking to a nutritionist lately about, before we talk about that, I just need to share the live broadcast a little bit. I'm just going to share the live broadcast with a couple of spots. There we go. Yeah. So if you're just joining us now, I'm just sharing the live stream in a couple places. I'll only be gone for a minute or so. Going to need to give people a couple minutes to get here anyhow. Okay, so I'm just going to share it on Facebook. There we go. Just where I wanted to go. On YouTube. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so hi, my name is David from Life with Parkinson's. And I'm here to talk about anything at all to do with Parkinson's disease. I was just gone from sharing a podcast in a few places, just so people get the word that I'm here. But I'm planning to be here almost daily, like 5 or 6 days a week. In the mornings, my goal is to start my broadcast at about 7:30 and run it till 9. If I start much later than that, then it gets more difficult. And that's kind of one of the part of the topic today is Parkinson's disease and food, because one thing I've been having problems with a lot lately is how do I fit my protein into my day? And that's become a big issue because, well, yeah, there's two things going on. I've been talking to a nutritionist who's been helping me sort things out. This is new, just the last couple of weeks. And she's really knowledgeable. She knows a lot about Parkinson's disease. I was really surprised. Not surprised that she doesn't know how to do her job, but I haven't met many nutritionists that are really like fully specialized into like neurological and autoimmune disorders, like Parkinson's disease. It's not an immune disorder and a neurological problem at the same time. But she's like, well, you really need to be consuming around 80 to 90 grams of protein a day. And that's like more than a pound of ground beef. I'm like, wow, how do I fit that all into my schedule? Because lately I'm not able to consume protein during my day. The best time of the day to have my protein seems to be at bedtime. So I I tried I don't really want to say ramming 90 grams of protein through, but yeah, I did try a couple times and a couple different ways to eat 90 grams of protein before going to bed, and it was really really difficult. Like the protein stayed in my system for a long time. It was just too much. So I've had to break it into 2 chunks. And that's what I've been doing in the morning is trying to figure out what time of the morning do I need to get up, eat my protein, and then leave enough time for my medication to kick in. So I got to get up, eat my protein, which takes me completely off because it knocks all the medication out of my system. And then I got to wait like an hour and a half for everything to digest, and then for my stomach to clear out, and then I can take my pills. And then it takes another block of time for those pills to work their way through my system, get through all the protein standing away, and then I guess the best word would be to reactivate my system, reactivate my body. So today I got up just before 5 this morning, and then my goal was to start my live stream at 7:30, which didn't happen, and I'm not too upset about that. It's gonna happen when it happens. It's just that was my goal. So to reach that goal, I'm gonna get up like 15 minutes earlier tomorrow. I'll get up at 4:45, and then try again. It's just figuring out when it's gonna work. So in the evening, I have my protein meal at 8 o'clock, and then usually I'm back on by like 9. Yeah, about 9:30, I'm back on, and then I go to sleep. So I'll sleep from 9 to 5, but yeah, it's a lot to figure out. It's really, really annoying because it's difficult to say what it is. It's like a progression issue, but it's also a medication issue. It's that the medication and my body has become very sensitive to the medication protein interaction. Yeah, so that is the big issue to sort out. How do I time this all? So I get my protein in 2 different meals, which is better. I feel better. I feel stronger during the day when I'm able to do that. But how do I get my protein sorted out into 2 different blocks during the day so everything is figured out? And if you've got Parkinson's disease, then this could definitely be a problem for you in the future to sort out as well. Like, how do you sort this out? And the other big thing I've learned about lately is something called oxalate. Oxalate is a naturally occurring compound that's in a lot of our food. One thing it's specifically in a lot of is like fruits and vegetables. And oxalates, I've learned, are not our friend. Right? They're not our buddies. It's not like we want to eat a lot of oxalate because it can harm us. And that's one of the short videos I put out lately, is how damaging oxalate can be to our system. And it's when the nutritionist was telling me about this, I was like, what? Did I miss something in science class? Right? Did I miss what an oxalate is? And so the short video I put out talks about oxalates and a little bit about what they do, but I thought it would be good for this live broadcast because people are going to watch this later. And yeah, I'm going to just try and find that article. There's a blog post I was sharing. I'm just going to see if I can bring that up. Just give me 1 second here. I wouldn't mind talking about this because it's very important. And a lot of people are going to gain some knowledge from it. So, oh yeah, this is the one I want to talk about. And I'll post the web address in the chat to this blog post by Bio-Individual Nutrition. Okay, let's see if I can paste that in the chat. There we go. Nice. I'm going to see if I can pin that comment. So, oh, there we go. There's the 3 dots. I should be able to. Oh, there we go. I can pin that. Pin message. There we go. Yay! I'm figuring things out. I'm figuring things out. Okay. Yeah, I realize that there's probably not going to be much traffic today. I think it's going to take people a while to figure out that I'm going live this time of day, but whatever. Over the next couple of weeks, people will figure it out. Okay, so we're talking about the comment that I just pinned in the chat, and that is to a little blog post that somebody else made, but I think it's really important. I just want to talk about this blog post a little bit because it talks about something I'm really struggling to sort out in my diet right now, and that is oxalates. So I'm just going to read this out. Unraveling the impact of oxalates on chronic disease, a comprehensive guide for nutritionists. New science and clinical experience reveal concerns about oxalates that far exceed traditional kidney stone pathology. In order to best support their patients and clients, integrative practitioners, especially diet and nutrition specialists, would benefit from greater understanding of oxalates and personalized nutrition. Okay, so one thing you might be thinking about is, Dave, how important are oxalates for people with Parkinson's? And I would say ultra important, like incredibly important. Okay, it doesn't look like it right now because I'm experiencing some dyskinesia, but when you lower your oxalate intake with Parkinson's disease, your dyskinesia rates and dystonia rates should go down, and that's what I've experienced. But what I'm also experiencing right now is a little bit of over-medication dyskinesia because I had problems getting back on after my breakfast. Because when I eat, I go completely off. And then I gotta wait for the food to go through my system before I reactivate my pills. And it took me a little bit of extra medication to get out of that off, which I'm hoping goes away over the next couple of weeks because it's just annoying. So anyhow, yeah, oxalates, when you consume less of them, will lower your dyskinesia rates. And I could probably do that too by using my tuning fork while we talk. That would be smart. So oxalates are highly reactive molecules because they present in our body as sharp crystals or crystalline structures with jagged edges that cause pain, irritation, and distress. Oh yeah, you want to eat some oxalate now. They combine with certain minerals, particularly calcium and magnesium, as well as iron and copper. Having high oxalate in the body can be problematic, and not giving proper consideration to one's oxalate intake can impede the effectiveness of even best healing diet protocol. High oxalates in the body, hyperoxaluria, I think that's how you pronounce that, can be a factor in many chronic conditions, including digestive issues, autoimmune disorders, and neurological conditions. Oxalate affects mitochondrial function and can create inflammation, thus influencing every system in the body. Oh yeah, I've definitely experienced that. 100%. Like it's just crazy how much the oxalates affect me. Definitely. So I'm just using my tuning fork and hockey puck here just to slow down my dyskinesia. Oh, that's much better. Okay, so let's go back to this blog post and just talk about this a little bit more. Understanding oxalates. Although most commonly identified with the formation of calcium oxalate, kidney stones, oxalate. Okay, let's start that again. Although most commonly identified with the formation of calcium oxalate kidney stones, oxalate bound calcium, when unbound, free oxalate can interfere with cellular function, affecting health on a broader systemic level. Clinical studies and anecdotal experience indicate that oxidative stress, mitochondrial disruption and damage, and nutrient depletions trigger widely varied symptoms, including fatigue, inflammation cascades, joint pain, or pain anywhere in the body. Chronic low energy is very common because of a reduction in ATP in the mitochondria. Oxalates could be a hidden source of headaches, urinary pain, genital irritation, joint muscle, intestinal, and eye pain. Oh, lovely, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, I want some oxalates now. Bring them on. Other common oxalate-caused symptoms may include mood conditions, anxiety, sleep problems, weakness, or burning feet. Indicators can be digestive, respiratory, or even bedwetting for children. Yeah, not a whole lot of fun. It's important to note that oxalates can inhibit the absorption of calcium, magnesium, and other minerals, which actually make them an anti-nutrient. Minerals in food become bound by oxalate, for instance, calcium, thereby forming insoluble calcium oxalates, for instance, cannot be absorbed properly by the intestinal tract. This can lead to mineral deficiencies such as calcium and or magnesium deficiency. In the gut of a healthy person, oxalates typically bind together with these minerals are not absorbed through the gut. then eliminated in the stool. Well, this inhibits absorption of nutrients, and officially this ensures that they are excreted rather than crossing the gut in the bloodstream and causing cellular distress and damage. Yeah, so I'm working on figuring out what foods in my diet are high in oxalate and how I can cut them out. Okay, anybody with a comment or a question they want to ask? Yeah, I'm here to talk about anything to do with Parkinson's disease, anything to do at all. I'm happy to answer any question along those lines. I'm planning to be here like 5 or 6 days a week if possible, every morning around 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, Life with Parkinson's daily broadcast. Okay, let's keep talking about that article. I'll head back over to it. There we go. That's funny. High oxalate. Once oxalate gets into cells, where it can disrupt mitochondrial function, it can cause all sorts of systemic disturbances. Here are some of the varied effects of high oxalate in the cells and tissues that we'll explore through the course of this article. It disrupts mineral absorption and usage. It impairs cellular energy. Yeah, I've noticed that when I eat a lot of oxalate, I get really fatigued. It depletes nutrients like glutathione, interfering with biotin, which I believe is vitamin B7. It creates oxidative stress, activates the immune system to trigger inflammatory cascades, interferes with and damages mitochondrial function, damages cells and tissues, causes seizures during toxic exposure to oxalate. Faulty sulfation, I'm not sure what that is, can cause histamine release. I'm not sure what that does as well. I think that's where you get your allergies from, or histamines. Okay, types and sources of oxalate. There's exogenous and endogenous. Oxalates stem from two main sources. Okay, sorry, I just had a message I had to read. Okay, exogenous oxalate can accumulate from a diet that is high in spinach, nuts, beans, or other high oxalate foods. This is why individualizing therapeutic diets is essential, because by the book, some well-known special diets strongly rely on higher oxalated foods, especially almonds and almond flour. Diets often heavy on these nuts and flours include SCD, GAPS, and paleo. And vegetarian diets are often high in oxalate, since they usually include many beans, grains, nuts, and seeds, as well as high oxalate greens or starchy veggies. vegetables like spinach or sweet potato. Oh my goodness. When will the agony end? High oxalate foods. Spinach, Swiss chard, almonds or almond flour, including almond milk, walnuts, chia seeds, sesame seeds, buckwheat, quinoa, most legumes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, chocolate, and beets. See, the thing is, when you do these diets, they're like I've done a number of different diets. I find that they're always like, okay, this diet is really good because it's high in vitamin K, which is in a lot of green leafy vegetables. But then a lot of the green leafy vegetables are high in oxalate, so they don't tell you that. They don't tell you that part. You gotta look at these diets on our own, which I did not do. Which I did not do when I looked at any of them. Practitioners should be aware that diets high in oxalate could create a wide variety of problems for some people. Making informed choices or modifying a diet for oxalate can make a dramatic difference in lowering the oxalate load. Yeah, I've found that since I've lowered my oxalate intake, my dyskinesia is way down. My dystonia, jaw attacks are down. Everything is easier to manage. And once this extra med works out of my system, I'll feel a lot better. Whoops. Wrong button. One sec. Okay. Back at it. Deficiencies and endogenous production. Each person's ability to process oxalate varies based on certain deficiencies or pathways or genetic differences. Some deficiencies, including vitamin B6 and 1 deficiency, can cause the body to produce oxalate endogenously in problematic amounts. Other deficiencies, such as vitamin A, can cause the body to absorb excess oxalate through the gut. Yeah, so I think they're talking about really having like a good balance in your body of all these, having a good balance of all these things in your body to prevent oxalate from taking over. Further, because one's body chemistry can convert a substance into oxalate, oh my goodness, such as supplements like ascorbic acid or the amino acid glycine, complications can arise. Fructose, xylitol, and other sugar alcohols can also convert to oxalate. Certain supplements, as well as a diet too high in meat, can be a problem for some people when the gut is unhealthy. The health of the gut and one's microbiome influence whether or not a person has an issue with oxalates. Oxalates can be a problem when the gut is inflamed and hyperpermeable. Leaky gut syndrome, when it is not digested, and there is fat malabsorption, or where there is not enough gut bacteria, especially particular forms, to break the oxalates down. Developing problem with oxalates is likely if there aren't enough minerals in the gut to bind the oxalate. Oh my goodness. Excess oxalobacter, leaky gut, and a low beneficial bacteria can contribute to oxalate problems. Oxalate tuber, I don't need to read that. Don't need to read that. There you go. Fat malabsorption. Excess undigested fat compounds matter. Extra fat floating around the gut can bind to calcium, which makes the calcium unavailable for oxalate binding, causing free oxalates to absorb into the body. Oh my goodness. When will the nightmare end? With optimal health, good digestion, and mineral intake, calcium would be available for binding to the oxalate. However, when there's excess fat, the calcium binds to the fat, allowing the oxalate to be free to get into the bloodstream, into the cells. For people with oxalate issues, it is important to know whether fat malabsorption is at play. A stool analysis can help you determine if fat malabsorption is not at play. Once it is determined that fat is not digesting and absorbing, an individual may need to restrict fat intake in their diet to avoid further complications of oxidative issues, particularly in the short run, as they work on digestion, whether the digestive enzyme supporting bile production or other means. Sulfate, poor sulfate, and mitochondrial dysfunction. In addition to gut issues, sulfate and sulfation can be underlying factors in oxidative issues. When sulfate is low and sulfation biochemistry is poor, dropped my hockey puck, oxidative problems can arise. Sulfate is very important in the body. Its need for processing foods and dozens of processes in the body, including digestion, gut integrity, and neurodevelopment. There is a two-way relationship between oxalate and sulfation. Said another way, oxalate can cause low sulfate, and low sulfate can cause oxalate problems. As noted, excess oxalate can lead to poor sulfation by oxalate, interfering with the body's ability to allow sulfate into the cell, inhibiting sulfation. Wow. Another way that low sulfate can cause problems with oxalates involve the role of the kidneys. Insufficient sulfate inside the kidneys would interfere with the ability of the kidneys to remove oxalate from the blood and to deliver the oxalate to the urine. It's a double-edged sword. Okay, any questions about oxalate or anything? Yeah, I'm David. My name's David from Life with Parkinson's, and I'm here to talk about anything to do with Parkinson's disease. So if you have a question, feel free, shout it out. I'm happy to answer it. I've just been reading this article just because the big thing right now for me is diet issues with, I've got conflicting issues with my protein. Yeah. My biggest issues right now are protein interference with my medication, so I'm trying to sort that out. Okay, there's another article I want to read about oxalates as well, because oxalates can do us a lot of harm. Okay, I'm just going to grab the address. Yes. Okay, how oxalates affect your gut, urinary tract, and risk of autoimmune conditions. In personalized lifestyle medicine, sometimes one person's superfood is another person's poison. Isn't that true? Because spinach has so much oxalate in it, it's just nuts. Such is the case with oxalates, which are found in high concentrations in many presumed health foods. Once I started testing, I realized that many of my patients were experiencing the downstream consequences of excess oxalate intake, usually in the form of green smoothies full of spinach, kale, and other greens. It's just not fair. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds in foods like spinach, kale, nuts, beans, and even chocolate that can interfere with the absorption of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. In susceptible individuals, foods that seem healthy can become toxic. They are considered anti-nutrients because they protect the plant against predators, human predators, I guess, from harmful bacteria to insects and animals. Oh, I got it. Oh my goodness, I didn't plug my computer in? David. Bad David. Oh my goodness. Okay. In the human body, where were we? In addition to oxalates that originate food called exogenous oxalates, the human body also produces them, mainly in the liver from excess vitamin C, fructose, and yeast. Other anti-nutrients include phytic acid and lectins. Unfortunately, oxalates form from painful crystals in various places such as the kidneys, bladder, vulva, gut wall, and other mucosal membranes in susceptible people. Yeah, I am definitely susceptible to oxalates. Very sensitive. Very, very sensitive. What increases your risk of oxalate overload? You have to be sensitive to them because of your genetics, gut bacteria, dysbiosis, or missing the microbes that process them, or nutritional deficiencies like vitamin B6, magnesium, and thiamine. The gene involved in oxalate breakdown is called SLC26A1. The bacteria that break down oxalates are the Oxalobacter formigenes and I can't even pronounce that word. Anyhow, they got microbiome. Personally, I have dirty oxalated genes, meaning that I don't break down oxalates in food. Additionally, I'm assuming the bacteria that break down in my gut oxalates are very high on my urine, hard on my urinary organic acid test. Okay, what symptoms are caused by oxalate overload? That is the big question. Gut problems, including bloating. Oxalates can irritate the mucosal lining throughout the body. Chronic pain, kidney stones, intestinal cystitis, a syndrome of painful bladder, joint pain, inflammation, autoimmune conditions, mineral deficiency, autism. Now, in people with Parkinson's, high oxalates increase dyskinesia, dystonia, and I'm assuming tremors as well. It's because when we have high oxalates in our body, it increases involuntary movements. Now, the dyskinesia I'm having here right now is because I had problems getting back on after my protein intake this morning. Okay, how can oxalate overload be prevented or treated? The best way to treat or to prevent oxalate overload is to reduce the consumption of high oxalate food. It's best to switch to a moderate oxalate diet. If you go too low on oxalates too fast, you can form painful crystals. Okay. So that is that article. Okay. So let's just read the summary here. What helps? Eat low to medium oxalate foods. Wild caught fish, pastured poultry, grass-fed beef, bananas, golden delicious apples, cabbage, bok choy, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, celery and dyed cauliflower, cucumber, zucchini, lettuce, onions, and mushrooms. Avoid the high oxalate foods, which tend to be in the dark leafy green vegetables. 1 cup of raw spinach contains about 656 milligrams of oxalate. That is a lot of oxalate. Supplement with vitamin B6, calcium, and magnesium, which can reduce the effect of oxalates. Skip black tea and instant coffee, both very high. And probiotics can help. Okay, so those are the highlights from that article about oxalates. So, do you have any questions or anything, anybody, that you want to ask? I'm here basically to talk about anything to do with Parkinson's disease, anything to do with I'm planning to be here daily, 5 to 6 days a week, from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. approximately. This is my very first podcast. So yeah, I'm planning to do like a 90-minute broadcast every day of the week, maximum 6 days. So if you have a question, throw it in the chat, or we will go find something else to read, which I don't mind doing at all. Okay. I'm going to find a blog post on my website that we can read. 1 second. One second, just going to my website. Blog. Okay, let's talk about the book Ending Parkinson's Disease. I'll put this web address in the chat for you so you can follow along if you want to. 1 sec. I'll put it in the chat. Here it comes. There we go. Okay, I pinned it in the chat if you want to follow along. If not, I'll just read it. And if you have any questions about the article or anything, fire away. Book review, Ending Parkinson's Disease. Key takeaways. Okay, what did I think about the book? This past Christmas, I received a gift that turned out to be far more than just a book. It was a wake-up call, a challenge, and a roadmap all rolled into one. The book is called Ending Parkinson's Disease, a Prescription for Action, and it's written by 4 leading doctors who have spent their careers in the front lines of the Parkinson's battle. Yeah, these guys definitely know what they're talking about. If you're new here, welcome. A book with one big question: what can we do? What can we do as a society that actually turn this around? And that's turning Parkinson's around. It's just Parkinson's is now the fastest growing neurological condition in the world. That's a terrifying statement, and one that deserves more attention than it's getting. We're not talking about a rare disease anymore. We're talking about something that's starting to overwhelm not just individuals, but the entire healthcare system. The authors, Dr. Ray Dorsey, Ted Shearer, Michael Oakham, and Bastian Bloom, have built this book as a 25-point roadmap for society to follow. They lay out everything from policy changes and environmental awareness to patient advocacy and community support. And honestly, it just couldn't be simpler. The roadmap is here. We just have to follow it. More than just a book, a living project. What really surprised me is how the authors didn't stop at writing Ending Parkinson's Disease as part of a much larger movement. There's a companion website and a YouTube channel and even a documentary that goes along with it. If you want a copy, there are many ways to get one. I've included links both to Amazon and the official website below if you want to use either of those to get your own copy. You can even request a free copy from the website or sponsor free copies for other people. Okay, so first impressions, 4 authors, 1 cohesive voice. When I first picked up the book, I had a few worries. 4 authors, all doctors? 2 with PhDs? I'll be honest, I was expecting something dense and academic. I pictured myself sitting at the table with a ruler or a highlighter and a dictionary just to get through the first chapter. But I was wrong. The writing is clear, concise, and well organized. The flow between chapters is surprisingly natural, and each section builds logically on the one before it. Despite being a nonfiction, research-heavy work, it reads smoothly, like a conversation guided by people who care deeply about making their point accessible. Sure, there were moments where I felt like the pacing slowed down a little bit, but in my hindsight, I realized it needed to. These are doctors. They're not writing to entertain. They're writing to convince. And to do that, they need to build airtight, bulletproof arguments backed by hundreds of references, studies, and statistics. And they did that very well. If anything, my impatience, which I have always suffered from, said more about me than the book. Since being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, I've noticed I can be more impatient. I want answers now. But as I kept reading, I started appreciating the care the authors took in building their case point by point. They weren't just writing, they were constructing trust. I get Easter eggs of insight. One of the most delightful surprises about Ending Parkinson's Disease is how it's sprinkled with what I'd call Easter eggs. Small, fascinating lists, bits of information tucked into unexpected places. In chapter 1, for instance, there's a story about Dr. James Parkinson himself, the man who first described this disease over 200 years ago. I won't spoil it for you here, but let's just say it gave me a new perspective on the name that defines so much of our lives. It's moments like that which kept me turning the pages. Even when the material got heavy or scientific, those little gems made it worth it, rewarding me for sticking around with the argument. Challenging the usual narrative. What really surprised me was how boldly, the authors challenged the conventional narrative around Parkinson's. We've all heard the same promises before. There's a cure, just around the corner. Then another corner, then another. But the authors don't buy into that false hope bus service, as I like to call it. They don't promise miracles. Instead, they offer something more powerful: truth and action. They carefully explore whether a cure is even the best thing to hope for right now. And that idea floored me at first, but as they explained their reasoning, focusing on prevention better, better care, and environmental reform, it started to make sense. The conclusions about Parkinson's care, research collaboration, and the pace of programs are sometimes hard to hear, but necessary. The honesty is refreshing. One section that really caught my attention was their insight into how researchers collaborate or sometimes don't. The book reveals surprising details about the day-to-day cooperation level in the research community and how limited information sharing can slow progress. It's something that most of us outside the lab rarely think about. That peek behind the curtain made me appreciate even more for the need of unity, not just among patients and caregivers, but also among scientists, organizations, and policymakers. Another area where the authors excel is exploring the link between Parkinson's and environmental toxins, especially pesticides and industrial chemicals like trichloroethylene. They take what could easily be overwhelming scientific data and explain it in plain language so anyone can understand the scale of the problem. Reading about how these toxins have seeped into our soil, water, and air is sobering. And it's not just people with Parkinson's who should care. These chemicals affect everyone. It's a section worth reading twice, once for understanding and again for reflection. A roadmap for real action. By the time I reached the last chapters, I realized the authors weren't just educating us, they were calling us to action. Their 25-point roadmap includes names, emails, and contact information for policy makers and organizations that can make real change happen. It's a complete guide for anyone who wants to advocate for the Parkinson's community in the United States. I can only hope that one day Canada and other countries will adopt similar frameworks so that advocacy can expand globally. The roadmap isn't a wish list, it's a blueprint for real change. Unfortunately, ending Parkinson's disease was released around the time of the COVID-19 pandemic that took over the world's attention. And like so many important conversations, it got buried under the chaos of real time. but that doesn't mean the call to action should be left behind. The book's message remains just as urgent today as it was when it was first written. We still need to unite as a community, raise our voices, and remind the world that Parkinson's isn't going away quietly. I don't know. It's not going away at all. When I first finished reading, I sat there asking myself, what should I do with this information? What was I supposed to do? Then I realized the authors had already answered that question. They flipped it around and asked us, what can you do? And that's when I knew my answer. I could share my experience, write about it, and encourage others to read the book. Not because I was asked to, but because I believe in what it stands for. It's a call to awareness, to cooperation, to community, and above all, to action. In my opinion, anyone with Parkinson's disease should read this book. But it shouldn't stop there. Family members, caregivers, advocates, and even people with no direct connection to Parkinson's should read it. The beauty of ending Parkinson's disease lies not just in its message, but in its execution. It's educational without being overwhelming, scientific without being cold, and hopeful without being naive. The companion website keeps the content fresh and evolving. The accompanying documentary brings emotion and humanity to the data. Together, they create a movement that's too important to ignore. If you hadn't read it yet, I truly encourage you to get a copy, or even better, sponsor one for someone who can't afford it. You can find the links to that in the description. Watch the documentary, share it, talk about it. Let's make sure this conversation doesn't fade into the background. Okay, that is that blog post. Any questions or comments about it? Any thoughts about ending Parkinson's disease? What do you guys think? Okay, I will find one more blog post to read, and then I think I'm going to pack up for the day. I'll grab one more blog post. Fingers. Do what you need to do. Okay, what do we got next? There we go. Caregiving 101. Resources and support for Parkinson's caregivers. That's a good blog. Let's do that one. Just grabbing the web address. There we go. I will pin that in the chat. You can follow along if you like. One moment. Okay. We can pin this in the chat. One sec. Okay, I pinned it in the chat. And we're going to talk about this blog post. 1 sec. Caregiving 101. Resources and support for Parkinson's care partners. Okay, so my wife and I did this video. To everyone who's been following our journey, thank you for your continued love and support. We're back up with another post in our caregiving series. Today we're talking about something very close to our heart, how we communicate with each other in a loving and respectful way, especially when Parkinson's tries to get in the middle of things like it does. When talking about each other gets tricky. One of the things Haley struggles with sometimes is talking about me when I'm sitting right there. For example, during a doctor's appointment, it's tricky. She wants to share details about what's going on, but it feels uncomfortable to talk about me as if I'm not in the room. And personally, it doesn't bother me either. For me, though, yeah, it doesn't bother me. That's what I just said. Okay. Sometimes I even step out of the room to make it easier for her. But the funny part is, one time a nurse asked Haley, "Is he hitting you or something? Is that why you want to talk alone?" That was definitely a surprise. Okay, respect and sensitivity matter. It's easy to overlook small things, but words really do carry weight. For me, as a guy, sometimes words can hit harder than intended. If I say, "I've been doing really well," and Haley says, "No, you haven't, you've been off for days," even if she means it lightly, it can sting. I know she's just being honest, but the way we phrase things can make the difference. We've learned that it's not about being right, it's about being kind and considerate. Parkinson's already makes communication tough, especially when I'm off and slurring my words or struggling to express myself. That's when patience and tone become everything. Living together 24/7. We live together and spend almost every hour of every day together. Thank goodness for sleep breaks. But when you're constantly around each other, it's easy to get on each other's nerves. That's why we try to be quick to forgive and quick to forget. There's no point in holding on to something small when we're going to wake up side by side again tomorrow. Helping each other in conversation. Haley does something that means a lot to me. She makes an effort to bring me into conversation when we're with other people in group settings. I sometimes struggle to keep up or jump in at the right moment. Haley will include me by saying things like, "Dave was just talking about that the other day," or "Dave's been trying something new lately." It might seem small, but that kind of inclusion helps me feel seen. Parkinson's can make you feel invisible, not because people mean to, but because communication slows down and others naturally fill the space. Haley helps bridge that gap in such a loving way. Another thing we've learned is how to remind each other of things without frustration. If Haley asks me to do something and I get distracted, which happens a lot, she'll gently say, "Hey, I thought I bought some eggs," instead of "Where are the eggs I asked for?" That small change keeps the moment light, not tense. We also avoid saying, "Do you remember?" because that can feel discouraging. Instead, we say, "Do you recall?" It's gentle and more supportive. When I'm off, eye contacts becomes really important. It helps me focus and communicate better. Haley look me in the eyes and wait patiently until I finish what I'm trying to say. That kind of respect means the world to me. It's not about finishing each other's sentences. It's about giving each other space to be heard, finding humor in everyday life. Of course, we try to laugh along the way too. Like when we called our TV provider to cut the bill, and the lady asked, "What are you going to do for entertainment?" And I said, "Go to the library. It's free." Haley just shook her head. We both cracked up. It was funny. It was very funny. She's like, "What are you going to do for entertainment?" Final thoughts. Whether you're living with Parkinson's or living with someone who is, communication is key. Be gentle, be patient, be kind. And when things get tense, remember, you're both doing your best, and that deserves respect. Okay, that's that blog. Now, did anyone have a question they want to ask or a comment they want to make before I wrap this live up for today? I'm planning to be back here tomorrow around the same time, 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 9 a.m. That is my goal, 5 or 6 days a week. To be here just every day to talk about anything and everything to do with Parkinson's disease. Okay. Well, if not, I'm going to wrap this up because I got to get going and do my stuff for today. But I will be back tomorrow at the same time if everything works out. Hopefully, it's a better morning tomorrow. Oh my goodness, it's getting so hard to figure out the protein issue, but we'll talk about that tomorrow some more. Okay, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to end the live stream now. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, where is the button? Oh, there it is. Okay, have a good day.